The story of the Holy Inquisition is not one that begins with fanfare and glory. It is a tale written in the ashes of betrayal and the blood of brothers. Its seeds were sown in the golden, yet deceptive, age of the Great Crusade, an era of vast ambition and unseen rot. As the Emperor of mankind led his legions across the void, reclaiming the lost birthright of humanity from the clutches of Xenos empires and the tyranny of techno-barbarian warlords, his divine perception, a psychic sight unmatched by any mortal or immortal, perceived a threat far more insidious than any alien fleet. He saw the cancer that could fester within the very heart of his grand design, the Imperium of man. The master of mankind understood with a dread certainty that the most devastating enemies of humanity would not always come from the cold, alien stars, but from within the warm bosom of his own empire. Even as his demigod sons, the Primarchs, led their space marine legions in glorious conquest, the Emperor quietly, secretly, began to weave a web of agents. These were not public figures, not warriors celebrated in song. They were ghosts, their existence known only to the Emperor and his most trusted confidant, Malcador the Sigillite. Their loyalty was absolute, their purpose singular: to watch, to listen, and to act when the first signs of corruption threatened the Imperium. They were the conceptual ancestors of the Inquisition, born from a father's grim foresight that even his most beloved sons might one day turn against him. The terrifying wisdom of this foresight was proven in the most catastrophic way imaginable. Horus Lupercal, the War Master, the most favored son, the one entrusted with the entirety of the Great Crusade, fell to the honeyed, venomous whispers of the dark gods of the warp. His betrayal was not merely that of a commander turning traitor. It was a galactic patricide that plunged the known universe into a civil war of unprecedented scale and horror, the Horus Heresy. The heresy revealed the terrible truth in screaming, fire-wreathed clarity. Corruption was not a mere abstract concept. It was a contagion that could infect the mightiest of hearts. 9 entire legions of the Adeptus Astartes, led by their fallen Primarchs, turned their weapons upon their brothers. Countless regiments of the Imperial Army, planetary governors, and entire sectors followed the War Master into damnation. The betrayal was a wound that cut deeper than any military defeat. It demonstrated how thoroughly the enemy could infiltrate, subvert, and corrupt the very foundations of the Imperium. As the galaxy burned, the Emperor's informal network of agents was proven woefully inadequate against the tidal wave of corruption that had been unleashed. The enemy was no longer just an external force to be met with bolter and chainsword. It was an internal rot, a spiritual plague that required not a hammer, but a scalpel to excise. The lessons seared into the soul of the Imperium during those dark years would fundamentally shape the organization that would rise from the ashes. It became terrifyingly clear that the Imperium required a permanent institution, an organization dedicated not to conquest, but to purification. It needed an entity with the absolute authority and unwavering dedication to root out heresy, mutation, and alien influence wherever it festered. This new institution would need to operate with the Emperor's own mandate, answering to no other authority, empowered to act with final judgment. The architect of this new entity was Malcador the Sigillite, the Emperor's most trusted advisor, a psyker of immense power, and the individual who would become known as the first Inquisitor. Malcador had stood at the Emperor's side since the unification wars on Terra. His loyalty was beyond question, his wisdom profound. His psychic abilities, while not matching the Emperor's own cosmic power, were formidable enough to peer into the souls of men and perceive the subtle taint of corruption. More importantly, he possessed a masterful understanding of human nature, politics, and the delicate, terrifying balance required to maintain an empire spanning 1,000,000 worlds. In the final, desperate years of the heresy, as the traitor legions closed their iron grip around Terra itself, Malcador began the solemn work of formalizing the Inquisition. Working from the shadowed chambers of the imperial palace, He and the Emperor designed an organizational structure that could operate across the unimaginable vastness of the Imperium. The fundamental principle was simple, yet revolutionary in its implication. The Inquisition would answer to no authority save the Emperor himself. Its members would be granted extraordinary powers to investigate, judge, and execute those found guilty of heresy, mutation, or collaboration with Xenos forces. Malcador, in his wisdom, did not create a rigid, monolithic hierarchy. He had seen how such structures could become bogged in bureaucracy, or worse, become single points of failure for corruption. Instead, he designed a decentralized organization of powerful individuals, each an inquisitor operating with considerable autonomy, yet bound by shared principles and a singular, terrible purpose. Each inquisitor would be a law unto themselves, responsible for recruiting their own agents, building their networks, and pursuing investigations as they saw fit. This flexibility would prove to be the Inquisition's greatest strength, allowing it to adapt and respond with terrifying speed to any threat, anywhere. The selection of the first inquisitors was a process of utmost gravity. Malcador sought individuals who possessed not only exceptional skill and unwavering loyalty, but the ironclad mental fortitude to stare into the abyss of human corruption without having their own souls consumed. Many were drawn from the Emperor's existing shadow agents, men and women already blooded in the secret war. Others came from the loyalist space Marine legions, particularly those who had demonstrated an iron resistance to the corruption that had claimed their brothers. Still others were recruited from the shattered ranks of the Imperial Army, the tech priests of the Adeptus Mechanicus, and even the civilian populations of Terra, chosen for unique skills and an absolute, fanatical dedication to the Imperial cause. Their training was intensive and comprehensive. They were schooled not just in the arts of war and investigation, but in the grim science of recognizing corruption in all its hideous forms. They learned to identify the subtle psychological signs of chaos taint, the physiological markers of mutation, and the behavioral patterns that indicated Xenos' influence. Most crucially, they were taught to maintain their own spiritual purity in the face of horrors that would shatter the minds of lesser beings. The siege of Terra was the final, bloody crucible. As the palace walls were breached, and the Emperor prepared for his final, fateful confrontation with Horus aboard the vengeful Spirit, the need for the Inquisition became a screaming imperative. The sight of Space Marine fighting Space Marine, of Imperial soldiers turning on their comrades, of populations embracing the worship of dark gods, drove home the absolute necessity of an organization capable of preventing such a betrayal from ever happening again. The Emperor's victory over Horus was Pyrrhic, paid for with his own mortal wounding. His interment upon the Golden Throne marked the end of an era and the true beginning of the Inquisition's eternal vigil. With the Emperor no longer able to guide his empire directly, the responsibility fell to Malcador and the first Inquisitors to codify the organization and set it upon its dark path. The early Inquisitors faced a galaxy in ruins. The Imperium was reeling, entire sectors were laid waste, and the surviving loyalist legions were being broken into smaller chapters by the Codex Astartes to prevent any single commander from ever again wielding the power of a Primarch. In this landscape of utter devastation and reconstruction, the Inquisition's mandate was clear, yet daunting: to root out the enemies of humanity from within its own borders. This task required not just skill and dedication, but the authority to act with ultimate finality. The early Inquisitors were granted powers that would have been unthinkable in the pre-heresy Imperium. They could requisition military assets, override the rule of planetary governors, and in the most extreme cases, order the Exterminatus of entire worlds, burning a planet to ashes to save the surrounding systems from a spreading corruption. The scope of their responsibility was deliberately vast, reflecting the hard-learned lesson of the heresy, that no deviation, no matter how small, could be tolerated. They developed the techniques that would become their tradecraft for millennia to come: networks of informants, methods of infiltration, protocols for surveillance, interrogation, and psychic investigation. The organizational culture that emerged was shaped by the trauma of the heresy and a constant, gnawing awareness that corruption could strike anywhere, at any time. It was a culture of perpetual vigilance, of justified paranoia, viewing every single citizen of the Imperium as a potential threat until proven otherwise. This was the grim birth of the Holy Inquisition, forged in the fires of betrayal and tempered in the cold, dark silence of the void. It was an imperfect, terrifying, but necessary shield for an Imperium that had learned, at the cost of its father, that the greatest threats often come from within. As the fledgling Inquisition grew, the diversity of threats facing the Imperium became terrifyingly apparent. The early Inquisitors, while united in purpose, soon discovered that the enemies of mankind manifested in countless forms, each requiring specialized knowledge and tactics to combat. This recognition led to the natural, gradual development of the three great Ordos Majoris, the foundational pillars of the Inquisition. The Ordo Malleus, the hammer of demons. First and most secretive was the Ordo Malleus, the hammer of demons. Born from the terrible lessons of the Horus heresy and the reality of the warp, this Ordo dedicated itself to combating the most insidious enemy of all, the demonic legions of chaos. The Inquisitors who gravitated to this specialization were those who had witnessed firsthand the soul-shattering effects of demonic incursions and the corrupting touch of the ruinous powers. The Ordo Malleus developed an unparalleled expertise in recognizing the subtle signs of chaos corruption that precede a full-scale demonic breach. Their agents became savants in identifying the psychological and physical decay in individuals exposed to the warp, from the barely perceptible shifts in behavior indicating early possession to the grotesque physical mutations of advanced corruption. They studied the blasphemous rituals of chaos cults, learning to recognize the arcane symbols, sacrificial rites, and psychic frequencies that could thin the veil between reality and the immaterium. The most significant partnership in the Ordo Malleus's arsenal is its sacred bond with the Grey Knights chapter. The Grey Knights, the most secretive of all the Space Marine chapters, were created for one purpose: to be the ultimate weapon against the demonic. Their gene seed, their psychic conditioning, and their very souls are engineered to be incorruptible. The Ordo Malleus provides the intelligence and investigative might to identify demonic threats, and the Grey Knights respond with surgical, overwhelming force. When an Inquisitor of the Malleus identifies a threat too great for conventional means, the Grey Knights descend like silver avengers, their force weapons and psychic might devastating to the entities of the warp. This coordination extends beyond the battlefield. The Grey Knights' fortress monastery on Saturn's moon, Titan, serves as a repository of forbidden knowledge, its libraries containing detailed accounts of demonic hierarchies, weaknesses, and binding rituals that are invaluable to the Ordo Malleus. This partnership, though sometimes strained by the Grey Knights' absolute secrecy, is one of the most effective in the Imperium's arsenal, a perfect fusion of knowledge and power in the eternal war against the dark gods. The Ordo Hereticus, the Witch Hunters. Where the Ordo Malleus looked outward to the warp, the Ordo Hereticus turned its gaze inward, upon the teeming billions of the Imperium itself. Their mandate was the internal threat, the corruption that could undermine the Imperium from within its own institutions. The Inquisitors of this Ordo understood that heresy was a hydra with countless heads, from the overt worship of chaos gods to the subtle, creeping corruption of imperial doctrine that could weaken the faith and loyalty of the Emperor's subjects. The scope of the Ordo Hereticus is terrifyingly broad. They hunt not only obvious heretical cults, but also rogue psychers, corrupt officials, and even entire imperial institutions that may have strayed from orthodox doctrine. Their agents are masters of infiltration and surveillance, learning to blend into the fabric of imperial society while watching for the slightest sign of deviation. The threat of unsanctioned psychers is particularly acute, for these individuals can become unwitting conduits for demonic possession or cause untold destruction with their uncontrolled powers. One of the most delicate and dangerous aspects of their work is the monitoring of the Adeptus Ministorum, the ecclesiarchy. The inquisitors of the Hereticus walk a razor's edge, recognizing the vital role that faith plays in binding the Imperium together, while remaining eternally vigilant for signs that this fervor might curdle into heresy. They investigate miracle workers, who might be unsanctioned psychers, examine new religious movements for traces of chaos worship, and monitor the powerful cardinals and confessors who hold sway over billions. The Ordo Hereticus also concerns itself with political heresy, separatist movements, corrupt governors, and sectors drifting from the light of Terra. Their inquisitors become masters of political manipulation and intrigue, working within the labyrinthine power structures of the Imperium to excise corruption, while maintaining a fragile stability. Their chamber militant is the Adepta Sororitas, the Sisters of Battle. These warrior women, clad in power armor and fueled by fanatical faith, are the embodiment of the Ordo Hereticus's will. They are incorruptible, relentless, and their very presence is a symbol of the Emperor's judgment. The sight of sororitas advancing into battle, their flamers purging the unclean, is the ultimate expression of the Hereticus's purifying mission. The Ordo Xenos, the Watchers of the Alien. The Ordo Xenos is the Inquisition's answer to the myriad alien threats that infest the galaxy. The Inquisitors of this Ordo understand that humanity is not alone, and that the Xenos is inherently hostile, a predator waiting in the void. Their mandate extends beyond mere military threats to encompass the subtle dangers of alien influence, technology, and ideology that can corrupt human society from within. Each Xeno species presents a unique and complex challenge. The ancient and inscrutable Eldari, with their prescient psychic abilities and advanced technology, require a subtle and cautious approach. The Ordo Xenos learns to recognize the signs of their manipulation in human affairs, understanding that even the most random event might be part of an incomprehensible alien scheme. The Orc Menace, by contrast, is a raw, brutal force of nature. These greenskins thrive on warfare, their crude technology made functional by a Gestalt psychic field. The Ordo Xenos becomes expert in recognizing the early signs of an orc infestation, from the appearance of feral settlements to the distinct electromagnetic signatures of their war machines, and works to predict and disrupt their migratory wags before they can consume entire sectors. The emergence of the Tyranid hive fleets presented an entirely new category of existential threat. These biohorrors, operating under a single hive mind intelligence, learn and adapt with terrifying speed. The Ordo Xenos works closely with the Adeptus Mechanicus to study captured specimens, seeking a weakness in their biological and psychic mechanisms. The discovery that Tyranids are drawn to psychic activity has led to heartbreaking decisions, forcing the evacuation or sacrifice of psychically gifted populations to save entire worlds. The expansionist Tiao Empire, with their philosophy of the greater good, presents a uniquely insidious threat. Their advanced technology and sophisticated understanding of human sociology makes them dangerously appealing to imperial citizens disillusioned by the Imperium's harsh realities. The Ordo Xenos learns to identify populations susceptible to this ideological corruption, monitoring for signs of sedition that precede actual alien infiltration. The chamber militant of the Ordo Xenos is the Deathwatch. This unique chapter is composed of battle brothers seconded from dozens of other Space Marine chapters, each bringing their own expertise and experience to the fight against the alien. Operating from hidden watch fortresses, Deathwatch kill teams are equipped with the most esoteric and powerful anti-Xenos weaponry in the Imperial arsenal. They are the scalpel that excises alien infections with ruthless precision. These three great ordos, the Malleus, Hereticus, and Xenos, form the bedrock of the Inquisition's power. While they specialize, their work often overlaps, for the enemies of mankind are not so easily categorized. A chaos cult might employ Xenos technology, a genestealer cult might foment heresy, a demonic incursion might be facilitated by a corrupt official. It is in these gray areas that the true complexity and power of the Inquisition is revealed, a decentralized, often fractious, but ultimately unified front in humanity's endless war for survival. The organizational structure of the Holy Inquisition is one of the most complex and deliberately opaque hierarchies in the Imperium. It prioritizes individual authority and operational flexibility over the rigid command structures of the Astra Militarum or the Adeptus Astartes. This unique system stems directly from the lesson of the Horus Heresy, that centralized power is vulnerable to corruption. At the foundation of this structure are the acolytes. These are the field agents, the investigators, the warriors, and the specialists who form an inquisitor's retinue. They are drawn from every walk of imperial life: former arbitrators, Imperial Guard veterans, tech adepts, sanction psychers, and even repentant criminals. Their training is rigorous and personal, tailored by their inquisitor. They learn to recognize heresy, survive in hostile environments, and most importantly, build the mental fortitude to confront the galaxy's horrors without breaking. Above the acolytes are the interrogators. These are senior agents on the cusp of becoming full inquisitors. They have proven their worth through years of faithful service and now lead teams and handle sensitive investigations. The relationship between an inquisitor and their interrogator is deeply personal, built on trust and shared experience over decades. An interrogator is the inquisitor's right hand, their successor, and their student. The rank of full inquisitor represents the pinnacle of authority. An inquisitor is a law unto themselves, wielding the power to requisition armies, depose planetary governors, and destroy worlds. Their independence is both the Inquisition's greatest strength and its most profound weakness, allowing for rapid response, but also creating the potential for conflict between strong-willed individuals with differing methods. At the apex stand the Inquisitor Lords, individuals of immense experience and authority who coordinate large-scale operations and sometimes represent the Inquisition among the High Lords of Terra itself. The tools of the Inquisition are as varied as its members. Interrogation is a dark art, ranging from psychological pressure and advanced lie detection Vox scanners to the horrific risks of psychic probing, where a telepath delves directly into a subject's mind. Servoskulls, those ubiquitous cybernetic familiars, are used for surveillance, reconnaissance, and analysis, equipped with a host of sensors and recorders. The Inquisition's military might is formidable. The Tempestus Scions of the inquisitorial stormtroopers are the ultimate human soldiers, their minds and bodies honed to a razor's edge. An inquisitor can also requisition entire regiments of the Imperial Guard or fleets of the Imperial Navy. Some of the most powerful inquisitors command personal retinues that include fanatical death cult assassins, stalwart crusaders, and cybernetically enhanced savants. Their vehicles and equipment are often heavily modified or custom-built. Rhino-armored personnel carriers are reconfigured as mobile command centers, and their arsenals include ancient archaeotech weapons and relics of unimaginable power. From the holy bolters of the Sororitas to the alien-slaying weaponry of the Deathwatch, the Inquisition wields every tool at the Imperium's disposal in its eternal vigil. The history of the Inquisition is written in the stories of its most legendary figures, whose actions and philosophies have shaped the organization for millennia. The saga of Gregor Eisenhorn is a cautionary tale of the fine line an inquisitor walks. He began his career as a staunch Puritan of the Ordo Xenos, but over 2 centuries of confronting the most insidious threats, he was gradually forced to adopt increasingly radical methods. His binding of the demon host Cherubale marked his definitive break from orthodoxy, as he chose to use the enemy's own weapons against them. His story exemplifies the fundamental debate that divides the Inquisition. Does the fight for survival justify any means? His one-time protege, Gideon Ravenor, presents a different path. Confined to a sophisticated life support chair after a catastrophic injury, Ravenor's physical limitations were transformed into strengths. His psychic abilities grew immensely, allowing him to project his consciousness and interface directly with machines. He became a master investigator, using his unique perspective to unravel conspiracies that would have remained hidden to others, all while grappling with the dangerous legacy of his mentor. On the other end of the spectrum stands men like Fyodor Karamazov of the Ordo Hereticus, an uncompromising Puritan who embodies absolute, merciless judgment. His throne of judgment is a massive mobile weapon platform from which he delivers the Emperor's justice with fanatical zeal. His campaigns of purification are brutal and absolute, demonstrating the terrifying power of an inquisitor who believes that any mercy shown to a heretic is a betrayal of the entire human race. These figures represent the great philosophical schism within the Inquisition, the eternal conflict between Puritan and radical. The Puritans believe in absolute adherence to imperial doctrine. They argue that any compromise with the enemy, no matter how tactically advantageous, is the first step on the road to damnation. Factions like the Monodominants advocate for the total extermination of all Xenos, while the Thorian faction focuses on the Emperor's divinity and the possibility of his return through a chosen vessel. The radicals counter that the galaxy's threats have evolved beyond orthodox solutions. They argue that to defeat a cunning enemy, one must sometimes use their own tools. The Xanthites delve into the study and controlled use of chaos itself, believing they can fight fire with fire. The Recongregators seek to reform the Imperium's bloated and inefficient institutions from within, while the most dangerous Istvanians believe that controlled conflict is necessary to strengthen humanity, and may even orchestrate wars to test imperial resolve. This ideological divide has, at times, erupted into open conflict, such as the Inquisition Wars of the 36th millennium. Yet, it is this very tension that defines the Inquisition, a constant internal struggle to define the price of victory. The dawn of the 41st millennium and the era Indomitus has presented the Inquisition with its greatest challenges. The opening of the Great Rift split the galaxy in two, severing communications and isolating entire sectors. The return of the Primarch Robot Guilliman brought a new, reforming authority that questioned the Inquisition's ancient methods and autonomy. The Plague Wars, the massive Tyrannid invasions, and the relentless spread of heresy in the dark half of the Imperium Nihilus have forced the Inquisition to adapt as never before. They must now coordinate more closely with other imperial institutions, manage unprecedented resource shortages, and confront threats on a scale that dwarfs the Horus heresy itself. Yet the Inquisition endures. For 10,000 years, it has been the shield against the darkness, the watcher in the shadows, the embodiment of the Emperor's final judgment. Its methods are terrifying, its power absolute, and its sins are countless. But in a galaxy of unending war, where mankind teeters on the brink of extinction, the Inquisition remains the necessary evil, the eternal guardian standing between humanity and its annihilation. Its vigil is dark, its work is terrible, but it is forever necessary. The authority of an inquisitor is absolute, but even the most powerful demagogue requires force of arms to enact their will. While any inquisitor can requisition regiments of the Imperial Guard or fleets of the Navy, the most sensitive and dangerous operations require a more specialized touch. For this, the three great Ordos Majoris each command the loyalty of a chamber militant, an elite military force tailored to their specific, hellish form of warfare. These are not mere soldiers, they are living weapons, consecrated instruments of divine retribution. The Grey Knights, the shield of the soul. The Grey Knights are the chamber militant of the Ordo Malleus, and they are a secret upon a secret. Their very existence is known only to the highest echelons of the Imperium, for they are the ultimate defense against the demonic. To know of them is to know that demons are real, a truth that can shatter the sanity of entire worlds. Their origins are rooted in the darkest hour of the Horus heresy. As demons walked the sacred halls of the imperial palace, Malcador the Sigillite, under the emperor's direct guidance, initiated a project of audacious scope. He gathered the most psychically gifted and spiritually pure warriors from the loyalist Space Marine legions, with many coming from the shattered ranks of the Thousand Sons who had rejected their Primarch's treachery. These chosen few were taken to Saturn's moon, Titan, which was shrouded by a potent psychic veil, and there they were remade. The genetic engineering applied to the Grey Knights surpasses even the lofty standards of the Adeptus Astartes. Their gene seed, derived from the Emperor himself, is incorruptible, making them immune to the temptations of chaos. Every single Grey Knight is a powerful psyker, his mind and soul forged into an unbreakable fortress. Their training is a continuous ritual of purification and mental conditioning, preparing them to face the infinite horrors of the warp without flinching. Their fortress monastery on Titan is a bastion of forbidden knowledge and psychic power. Its halls are lined with warding so potent that no demonic entity can even perceive its location in the warp. Within its sanctified vaults lies the Liber Demonicum, a comprehensive record of every known demonic entity, its true name, its weaknesses, and its banishing rites. In battle, the Grey Knights are a symphony of destruction. Their silvered Terminator armor is inscribed with sacred wards that glow with holy light in the presence of the unnatural. They wield Nemesis force weapons, halberds, swords, and hammers that channel their psychic might, capable of slicing through the immaterial flesh of greater demons. Their storm bolters fire sanctified ammunition, each round engraved with prayers of exorcism. To witness a Grey Knight strike force in battle is to see the Emperor's wrath made manifest, a tide of silver and blue that washes away the filth of the warp. The price of their secrecy is eternal vigilance, and sometimes terrible necessity. The first war for Armageddon against the demon Primarch Angron saw the deployment of the entire chapter. Though victorious, the battle was witnessed by thousands of Imperial Guardsmen and Space Wolves. To prevent the spread of the knowledge of demons and the Grey Knights, the Inquisition decreed that all surviving witnesses be mind-wiped or executed, a decision that sparked the bloody conflict known as the Months of Shame with the Defiant Space Wolves chapter. This event illustrates the grim calculus of the Ordo Malleus. The preservation of the Grey Knight's secrecy is worth any cost, even the lives of loyal Imperial servants. The Adepta Sororitas, the fire of faith. Where the Grey Knights are a secret scalpel, the Adepta Sororitas are the Ordo Hereticus's very public hammer. They are the battle sisters, warrior nuns of the Imperial cult, whose faith is a tangible, burning force. Their origins are steeped in betrayal and redemption. They began as the daughters of the Emperor, the personal army of the mad apostate Goj Vander during the Age of Apostasy. It was their leader, Alicia Dominica, who, after a divine audience with the Emperor himself, beheaded Vander and ended his tyranny. Redeemed and refounded as the Adepta Sororitas, they became the militant arm of the ecclesiarchy, and by extension, the perfect instrument for the Ordo Hereticus. They are the embodiment of the Imperial Creed, their every action a prayer, their every battle a hymn. Their faith is their armor, and it is not merely a metaphor. They are capable of manifesting acts of faith, miraculous events that defy rational explanation. A sister might move with superhuman speed, withstand wounds that would kill a space marine, or see her damaged weapon miraculously repair itself. These are not psychic powers, but the raw, channeled will of the Emperor, proof of his divine presence. The orders militant of the Sororitas are diverse. The Order of our Martyred Lady seeks vengeance for past defeats. The Order of the Sacred Rose embodies stoic defense, and the Order of the Bloody Rose revels in close quarters annihilation. They are equipped with power armor and wield weapons that combine advanced technology with religious sacrament. The roar of the hand flamer, the searing beam of the meltagun, and the massed fire of the bolter are the sounds of their liturgy. The sororitas are often deployed to purify worlds tainted by heresy. They march into hive cities where cults fester, their flamers cleansing the corruption with holy promethium. They defend shrines and cathedrals from desecration, and they stand firm against traitor legions and rogue psychers alike, their faith an unbreakable shield against the temptations of the warp. To see them in battle is to witness absolute conviction. They are the fire that purges the unclean and the unyielding wall against which heresy shatters. The Deathwatch, the alien's bane. The chamber militant of the Ordo Xenos is the Deathwatch, and it is unique among the institutions of the Imperium. It is not a single, cohesive chapter, but a brotherhood drawn from dozens of different Space Marine chapters. A battle brother from the Ultramarines may fight shoulder to shoulder with a warrior from the Space Wolves or the Dark Angels, each bringing their chapter's unique culture and combat doctrines to the fight. This long vigil is a temporary secondment, a duty that all chapters are honor-bound to fulfill. The selection process is rigorous. Only the most skilled and experienced veterans, particularly those with proven records against Xenos threats, are chosen. When a Marine arrives at a Deathwatch fortress, his original chapter heraldry is painted over on his left shoulder pad, replaced by the silver of the Deathwatch. His right shoulder retains his chapter badge, a constant reminder of his dual loyalty. This system creates an unparalleled repository of knowledge and tactics. The Deathwatch has developed specialized methods for combating every known Xeno species. They operate from hidden watch fortresses strategically placed across the galaxy, from which they deploy in small, hyper-specialized kill teams. A kill team's loadout is meticulously tailored to its mission. Against the swarming Tyranids, they deploy with frag cannons and heavy flamers. To hunt the elusive Eldari, they utilize stalker pattern bolters and advanced targeting systems. For missions against the technologically advanced Tiao, they might carry specially calibrated auspex and armor-penetrating ammunition. Their most powerful tools are their specially crafted ammunition, Hellfire rounds that melt organic matter, Kraken penetrators that punch through the toughest armor, and Dragonfire bolts that explode into infernos. The Deathwatch's role is one of surgical strikes and preemptive cleansing. They will teleport into a Genestealer cult's patriarch lair and eliminate the leadership before the Hive fleet arrives. They will raid a Druckari slave ship deep within the webway. They will deploy to a world on the verge of seceding to the Tiao and shatter the diplomatic envoys, reminding the populace of the Emperor's wrath. They are the galaxy's premier Xenos hunters, and their presence is a death sentence for any alien threat, no matter how ancient or powerful. Together, these three chambers militant represent the focused, overwhelming military might of the Inquisition. They are the tip of the spear, the embodiment of each Ordo's will, and the final, decisive argument in the Imperium's endless war for survival. The Holy Inquisition presents a united front to the enemies of mankind, but within its shadowy halls, a cold war of ideology rages eternally. This is the fundamental schism between Puritan and Radical, a philosophical conflict that shapes every investigation, every judgment, and every extermination. The Puritan factions, purity through absolution. The Puritans are the inheritors of the original Inquisition, their beliefs forged in the fire of the Horus heresy. Their core tenet is absolute. There can be no compromise with the enemy. Any use of the tools of chaos or Xenos, any deviation from imperial doctrine, no matter how well-intentioned, is the first step on the path to damnation. They believe that the only path to victory is through spiritual purity, unwavering faith, and the utter destruction of the alien, the mutant, and the heretic. The most hardline Puritans are the monodominants. Their creed is simple: total extermination. They believe the Emperor's vision was for a galaxy purged of all non-human life. To them, any tolerance of Xenos, even temporary alliances against greater threats like chaos, is a betrayal of humanity's destiny. They will burn a world that has traded with Eldar outcasts as readily as one that worships corn. The Thorian faction takes a more metaphysical approach. They focus on the Emperor's divine nature and the possibility of his return. Thorians actively search for individuals who might serve as vessels for the Emperor's consciousness, living saints, psychers of unusual power, or those who have performed miracles. They believe that by nurturing these potential vessels and maintaining absolute doctrinal purity, they can pave the way for the Emperor to walk among humanity once more. The Amalathians are the pragmatists of the Puritan movement. They believe the Emperor's will is best served by maintaining the stability of the Imperium's existing institutions. They work within the system, seeking to root out corruption and inefficiency without causing the catastrophic upheaval that more extreme factions might provoke. They are the guardians of the status quo, believing that the Imperium, for all its flaws, is the only thing standing between humanity and extinction. The radical factions, victory at any cost. The radicals emerge from the bloody battlefields and shadowy investigations where Puritan methods have failed. They operate on a terrifying principle. To defeat an enemy that knows no rules, one must be willing to break them. They argue that the Puritans' rigid adherence to doctrine is a luxury the Imperium can no longer afford in its fight for survival. The Xanthites are the most infamous of the radicals. They advocate for the controlled use of chaos itself as a weapon. A Xanthite inquisitor might bind a demon host for its knowledge and power, study forbidden tomes to understand the enemy's mind, or wield a demon-forged blade against a greater demon. They walk a razor's edge, believing they can control the fire without being burned. Most Puritans view them as already damned, little better than the heretics they hunt. The recongregators take a broader view. They believe the Imperium is a rotting edifice, and that to save it, it must be torn down and rebuilt. They work to subvert and reform corrupt institutions, from the Adeptus Terra to the Astra Militarum. They are revolutionaries who believe that the Imperium's greatest enemy is its own stagnation and decay. The most dangerous radicals are the Istvanians. Named for the world where the heresy began, they believe that conflict is the ultimate purifier. An Istvanian inquisitor may deliberately foment wars, rebellions, or crises to test imperial institutions, eliminate weak leadership, and strengthen humanity through trial by fire. They are the ultimate pragmatists, willing to sacrifice billions in the short term to create a stronger, more resilient Imperium in the long term. To them, the ends always justify the means, no matter how horrific. This philosophical war is not merely academic. It has, at times, erupted into open conflict, such as the Inquisition wars of the 36th millennium, where Inquisitor turned against Inquisitor in a galaxy-spanning shadow war. More often, it manifests as rival investigations, sabotaged operations, and bitter doctrinal tribunals. And a Malathian might work to stabilize a sector government, while an Istvanian agent simultaneously works to undermine it. A Xanthite's carefully controlled demon host might be destroyed by a monodominant strike force. This internal conflict is the Inquisition's greatest weakness, and paradoxically, its greatest strength. It ensures that no single philosophy can dominate completely, creating a constant, brutal form of checks and balances. The Puritan provides the unwavering moral core, the unbreakable shield of faith. The radical provides the adaptive, unpredictable strategies, the poisoned dagger in the dark. Together, in their eternal struggle, they form a terrifyingly comprehensive defense against every conceivable threat. The Inquisition is at war with itself, and for the rest of the galaxy, that is the most terrifying prospect of all. The galaxy is not a static place, and the Inquisition must evolve or die. The dawn of the 41st millennium and the opening of the Great Rift presented the most profound challenge to the Ordos since the Horus Heresy. The Cicatrix Maledictum tore the Imperium in two, severing astropathic communications, isolating entire sectors, and unleashing a tidal wave of warp storms and demonic incursions. The era of the Dark Imperium had begun. For the Inquisition, an organization that relies on information and rapid response, this was a catastrophic blow. Watch fortresses were isolated, Inquisitors were cut off from their support networks, and the flow of intelligence that was the lifeblood of the Ordos slowed to a trickle. In the Imperium Nihilus, the dark half of the galaxy, Inquisitors were forced to become absolute rulers, making world-shattering decisions with no possibility of consultation with Terra. Then came the unexpected, the return of a Primarch. Robout Guilliman, Lord Commander of the Imperium, awakened and brought with him a new age, the Era Indomitus. His arrival was a seismic event for the Inquisition. For the first time in 10 millennia, a being with authority rivaling their own walked the halls of power. Guilliman, a pragmatist and a statesman, viewed the Inquisition with deep suspicion. He saw its waste, its excesses, its internal squabbling, and its often counterproductive brutality. His reforms, the founding of the Great Viti and the introduction of the Primaris Space Marines, forced the Inquisition to adapt. The old ways of absolute autonomy were challenged. Guilliman demanded accountability, coordination, and efficiency. For many veteran Inquisitors, this was an unacceptable imposition. For others, it was a necessary awakening. The threats of this new era are of a scale that dwarfs previous conflicts. The Plague Wars in Ultramar required an unprecedented alliance between the Ordo Malleus, the Grey Knights, and Guilliman's own forces to combat the demon Primarch Mortarion. The Ordo Xenos faces multiple hive fleets of the Tyranids, each larger and more adaptive than the last. The Ordo Hereticus battles heresies that bloom like toxic flowers in the desperate soil of the Imperium Nihilus. The Inquisition's response has been to become more collaborative, however reluctantly. Conclaves between the Ordos are more common. Inquisitors are learning to work alongside the newly arrived Primaris Marines, whose enhanced capabilities and unfamiliar doctrines present both an opportunity and a mystery. They have access to new technologies from the Forge worlds of Mars, from improved servoskulls to advanced Vox interceptors. Yet the core mission remains unchanged. The Inquisition endures. It adapts. It persists. In the light of the Astronomicon and in the darkness of the Imperium Nihilus, its agents continue their work. They are the hidden guardians, the necessary monsters in the shadows. They are the ones who make the choice to burn a world so that a sector may live, to sacrifice a hero to prevent a greater evil, to damn their own soul to save the souls of billions. Their methods are a terror. Their power is a tyranny. But in a universe of unending night, where mankind's flame flickers precariously, the Inquisition is the brutal, unyielding hand that cups that flame against the howling wind. They are the eternal watchmen. They are the first, last, and only defense against the darkness that waits within and without, and their vigil will never, ever end. The authority of an Inquisitor is meaningless without the means to enforce it. Their arsenal is as varied as the threats they face, ranging from ancient archaeotech relics to the ultimate sanction of planetary annihilation. Each tool is a testament to the grim necessity of their eternal war. The Rosarius and the Crux Terminatus. While not all Inquisitors bear them, many are granted or acquire these most sacred of protective devices. The Rosarius, more commonly associated with the Adepta Sororitas and Ecclesiarchy priests, is a powerful force field generator that can deflect bolter rounds and energy blasts. For an Inquisitor operating in the line of fire, it is the difference between life and death. The Crux Terminatus, a badge of honor for Terminator-clad veterans, is often bestowed upon Inquisitors who have fought alongside the Adeptus Astartes. Rumored to contain a fragment of the Emperor's own armor, it is both a symbol of immense respect and a potent psychic ward. The Godwindy's Pattern Bolter and Inferno Pistol, the iconic armaments of the Inquisition. These are not standard-issue weapons. They are master-crafted instruments of death, often custom-fitted and sanctified by tech priests loyal to the Ordos. The Bolter's report is the sound of imperial judgment, each mass-reactive shell a tiny, exploding sermon. The Inferno Pistol, a miniaturized melta-weapon, is the tool for up-close execution, capable of vaporizing ceramite and flesh alike. Their weapons are their arguments, and they are always unequivocally final. The Liber Exorcistus and the Nemesis Casket. For the Ordo Malleus, knowledge is as vital as firepower. The Liber Exorcistus is a grimoire containing the true names, banishing rights and vulnerabilities of hundreds of demonic entities. To read from it is to risk one's soul, but to wield its knowledge is to hold power over the warp itself. The Nemesis Casket is a far rarer and more dangerous device, a containment field capable of imprisoning a defeated demon, trapping it for eternal study, or for use as a blasphemous weapon. The mere presence of such an item can curdle the air and invite madness. Xenosphylax and the digital weapons. The Ordo Xenos utilizes tools designed to counter specific alien physiologies. The Xenosphylax is a portable bioscanner that can analyze alien genetic material, trace pheromone trails, and identify the psychic resonance of species like the Tyranids. For more direct action, many inquisitors have digital weapons, lasers or needlers concealed in rings or cybernetic fingertips. These are the tools of assassination and last resort defense, as unexpected as they are lethal. The greatest sin, the authority of Exterminatus. The most terrible power in an inquisitor's arsenal is not a weapon they carry, but an authority they command. It is the right to order an Exterminatus, the complete and total destruction of a world. This is not a decision made lightly. It is the admission of absolute failure, the confession that a world is so irredeemably corrupted, so utterly lost to the enemy, that its very existence poses a threat to the entire Imperium. The protocols are severe. An inquisitor must often consult with fellow Ordo's members or log a formal prognosis with the Officio Assassinorum. But in the end, the authority is theirs alone. The methods of execution vary, each with its own horrific finality. Virus bombardment, the release of the Life Eater virus. It spreads with impossible speed, reducing all organic matter to a flammable sludge before a single ignition charge sets the entire atmosphere ablaze, leaving a world scoured of life and shrouded in a toxic green haze. Cyclonic torpedoes, mass-driven weapons that penetrate the planet's crust, detonating and igniting the core, tearing the world apart from within in a cataclysmic explosion. Atmospheric incinerators, vast arrays that trigger a runaway greenhouse effect, boiling the oceans and baking the land into a barren, glassy crust. To witness an Exterminatus is to witness the death of a world. Billions, perhaps trillions of souls, the loyal and the traitor alike, are sacrificed in a single, fiery act of mercy and condemnation. The inquisitor who gives the order carries that weight forever. They become the person who killed a world. They become a ghost haunted by the screams of an entire planet, all to ensure that the corruption dies with it. It is the ultimate expression of their duty, the willingness to commit an act of unimaginable evil for the greater good of humanity. While the Ordo Malleus, Hereticus, and Xenos form the public-facing pillars of the Inquisition, the galaxy holds countless other, more specialized threats. To address these smaller, more secretive Ordos have emerged, their existence often unknown even to other Inquisitors. The Ordo Sicarius, the Watchers of the Assassins. This Ordo exists in a state of permanent, tense symbiosis with the Imperial Officio Assassinorum. Their duty is to monitor the 6 temples of assassins, ensuring their political neutrality and absolute loyalty to the throne, not to any individual inquisitor or high lord. They investigate the use of assassins, prevent them from becoming tools in internal power struggles, and stand ready to eliminate any master of assassins who oversteps their remit. An inquisitor of the Sicarius is a master of counterespionage and political intrigue, operating in the most shadowy corridors of imperial power. The Ordo Chronos, the Guardians of Time. A small and deeply mysterious Ordo, the Chronos concerns itself with the flow and manipulation of time. In a galaxy where warp travel causes temporal distortion, where Xenos like the Eldari can manipulate causality, and where heretical chronomancy can unravel history itself, the Ordo Chronos acts. They hunt for temporal anomalies, investigate reports of time loops or precognitive visions that threaten the Imperial timeline, and seek out archaeotech from the dark age of technology that can bend time. Their work is theoretical, dangerous, and fundamentally incomprehensible to most. The Ordo Sepulchrum, the Plague Hunters. Born from the horrors of the zombie plague of Viridia and the subsequent outbreaks of Nurgle's contagions, this Ordo specializes in combating virulent diseases, both mundane and demonic. They are experts in quarantine protocols, biological warfare, and the identification of the plague god's influence. They work closely with the apothecaries of the Adeptus Astartes and the Magos Biologas of the Mechanicus to identify, contain, and purge supernatural plagues before they can consume entire subsectors. The Ordo Originatus and Ordo Redactus, the seekers and erasers of history. These two ordos represent two sides of the same coin. The Ordo Originatus is dedicated to investigating the true, unedited history of the Imperium, particularly the forgotten years and the truths obscured after the Horus Heresy. The Ordo Redactus has the opposite duty, to ensure that those same dangerous truths remain buried. They are the censors, the memory hole agents, the ones who purge archives and silence historians. It is not uncommon for an inquisitor of the Originatus to find themselves hunted by one of the Redactus, their quest for knowledge deemed a threat to the stability of the present. To be an inquisitor is to carry a burden that would crush a planetary governor. The rosette is not a badge of honor. It is a brand of ultimate responsibility. It grants the power of life and death over billions, but it also isolates the bearer from the very humanity they are sworn to protect. They cannot have friends, only assets and allies. They cannot have homes, only safe houses and fortresses. They live in a world of shadows, lies, and unspeakable truths. They are the judges of a dying empire, the physicians of a species riddled with cancer. They must be scholars, warriors, diplomats, and executioners. They must be as pious as a confessor and as ruthless as a Xeno-slaver. They must gaze into the abyss of chaos and not blink, and they must be willing to embrace the darkness within themselves if it means holding back the night for one more day. The Inquisition is a mirror held up to the Imperium of man. It reflects its strength, its faith, its resilience, but it also reflects its paranoia, its brutality, its capacity for monstrous acts in the name of survival. It is the embodiment of the central, tragic paradox of the 41st millennium. To protect something, you must often become its opposite. To preserve humanity, you must sometimes sacrifice your own. There is no peace. There is no forgiveness. There is no respite. There is only the certainty of war, the slow grinding attrition of a million conflicts across a million worlds. And in the heart of that endless war, there is the Inquisitor, alone, armed with faith and a bolt gun, standing between the light of a dwindling species and the infinite hungry dark. Their watch is eternal. Their work is terrible. They are the last best hope for mankind. And they are its most damning indictment. An inquisitor is only as effective as the eyes, ears, and blades they command. They are a nexus point, a conductor of specialized wills. A retinue is not merely a team. It is a living weapon system, a microcosm of the Imperium's varied strengths, and often the Inquisitor's only family. Each member is a specialist whose loyalty is beyond question. The Interrogator. More than just a senior agent, the Interrogator is the Inquisitor's heir apparent, their legacy made flesh. They are being tested not just on skill, but on philosophy. Will they continue their master's work or rebel against it, as Ravenor did against Eisenhorn? The relationship is a complex tapestry of mentorship, filial piety, and looming succession. The sage or savant, often a former academy scholar or a data archaeologist from the administratum, the savant is the retinue's institutional memory. They possess a mind capable of cross-referencing 1,000 seemingly unrelated data points, a forgotten saint's name, a lapsed trade route, a minor noble house's heraldry, to uncover a vast conspiracy. They are the ones who find the pattern in the chaos. The warrior. This role is often filled by a former Imperial guardsman, an ex-Arbite's precinct captain, or even a discharged Space Marine scout. They provide brute force and tactical acumen, but more than that, they are the anchor of reality. When the Inquisitor is lost in a labyrinth of heresy and demonology, the warrior reminds them of the simple truths of cover, fire lanes, and a well-aimed bolt round. The Technomancer, a tech adept, often one with heterodox beliefs, who maintains the Warband's arcane equipment. They can commune with machine spirits to extract data from a corrupted logic core, bypass void shields, or jury-rig a voxcaster to broadcast a psychic null frequency. Their relationship with their tools is a form of worship, and their betrayal by the machine god is a constant fear. The Psyker. A sanctioned Psyker is a double-edged sword, a necessary vulnerability. Their abilities for telepathy, divination, and biomancy are invaluable. They can read the residual terror in a room, sense the taint in a person's soul, or shield the Warband's minds from psychic predation. But every time they tap into the warp, they risk attracting the attention of the very entities they hunt, or worse, becoming a gateway for them. The Familiar. Sometimes the most trusted agent is not human at all. A cyber mastiff with enhanced senses, a servoskull that contains the consciousness of a former mentor, or even a bound, neutralized Xenos creature used for its unique perceptions. These familiars are extensions of the Inquisitor's will, utterly loyal and often terrifying in their efficiency. The loss of a retinue member is not just a tactical setback, it is a profound personal wound. These are the only people in the galaxy with whom the Inquisitor can be their true, fractured self. To lose them is to be truly alone. Beyond the great triad of the Majoris, the Inquisition maintains a constellation of smaller, hyper-specialized ordos, each a testament to the galaxy's infinite capacity for novel horrors. Ordo Sicarius, the Ghosts of Judgment. This ordo operates in the absolute silence between the lines of authority. Their sole purpose is to monitor the Imperial Officio Assassinorum. They are the check on the ultimate check. An Inquisitor of the Sicarius ensures that the temples remain tools of the Imperium, not of a rival Inquisitor or an ambitious High Lord. They investigate the use of every Exitus bullet, knowing that the death of a single planetary governor can plunge a sector into civil war. Their greatest fear is an assassin who kills for a cause other than the Emperor's. Ordo Chronos, the Guardians of Causality. Time is not a river, it is a stormy sea, and the Ordo Chronos navigates its treacherous currents. They investigate temporal anomalies, a hive city trapped in a repeating day, a starship that emerges from the warp centuries before it left, a soldier who remembers battles that have not yet been fought. They hunt heretical chronomancers and seek to understand or destroy archaeotech like the mysterious Pharaoh's device that can manipulate time itself. Their work is paradoxical. To preserve the timeline, they must sometimes alter it, becoming the very anomaly they seek to prevent. Ordo Sepulchrum, the Plague Hunters. Born from the horrors of the zombie plague of Viridia and the countless pandemics of Nurgle, this Ordo are the Imperium's immune system. They are epidemiologists and exorcists combined. They can distinguish a natural virus from a demonic curse, and their protocols for quarantine are absolute and merciless. They have the authority to burn hospital worlds to the ground if they suspect a spiritual infection. They understand that in the war against Grandfather Nurgle, hope is a symptom, and despair is the vector. Ordo Originatus and Ordo Redactus, the war for history. These two sister ordos are locked in an eternal secret war. The Ordo Originatus seeks the unvarnished truth of imperial history. They delve into forbidden archives, interrogate ancient servitors, and travel to dead worlds, seeking the real story behind the Legion Wars, the true fate of the lost Primarchs, and what really happened during the Age of Strife. The Ordo Redactus exists to ensure they never succeed. They are the censors, the memory hole agents. They purge data, eliminate historians, and fabricate convincing lies to maintain the imperial truth. that the current, sanitized history is the only one that exists. An Originatus Inquisitor finding a crucial data slate is often met with a Redactus kill team arriving to erase them both. Beyond bolters and psychic hoods, the Inquisition employs a suite of esoteric and terrifying tools. The Mind Impulse Unit (MIU), a direct neural interface that allows an Inquisitor to control servoskulls, vehicles, or even the targeting systems of an entire starship with a thought. The danger is the feedback. The death of a linked machine can feel like a part of the Inquisitor's own brain dying. Psychoactive weaponry, weapons that feed on the user's will. A force weapon is the most common, but some radicals wield blades that thirst for blood or pistols that fire shards of crystallized fear. The line between wielding such a weapon and being wielded by it is perilously thin. The Animus Speculum, a horrific device used by the most daring Ordo Malleus radicals. It does not merely banish a demon, it attempts to briefly trap and interrogate it, forcing the entity to reveal its master's plans. Using the speculum is like holding a live plasma grenade in one's mind. The demon's lies and promises are a psychic poison. The Codicea Aethernum, a living, psychically reactive book whose pages change to display information relevant to the reader's subconscious thoughts. It can reveal connections the conscious mind misses, but it can also lead the reader down paths of paranoia and obsession, showing them only what they fear most. The Inquisition's greatest enemy is often itself. The conflict between Puritan and Radical is managed, however violently, through a system of conclaves. A conclave is a gathering of inquisitors within a sector or subsector. There is no formal hierarchy. Influence is earned through respect, fear, and proven results. Conclaves are tense, paranoid affairs where philosophical debates can end in accusations of heresy and duels to the death. They serve to share intelligence, allocate resources, and adjudicate disputes. A conclave can declare an Inquisitor Extremis Diabolus, a rogue and heretic, marking them for death by their former peers. The most dangerous internal threat is the possibility matrix, a theoretical scenario where an Inquisitor's methods become so radical, their power so great, and their philosophy so unhinged that they become a greater threat to the Imperium than any external enemy. The Inquisition lives in constant fear of creating its own Horus. The galaxy does not stand still, and the Ordos must adapt to new horrors or perish. The Great Rift and the Imperium Nihilus. In the dark half of the galaxy, Inquisitors have become absolute warlords. Cut off from Terra, they forge their own empires, making pacts with Xenos, condoning blasphemies and ruling with an iron fist. Are they the last bastions of order, or have they become the very tyrants they were meant to hunt? The answer is often both. The Primaris question, the arrival of the Primaris Space Marines, created by the Heretic Archmagos Belisarius Call, is a profound shock. The Ordo Hereticus and Ordo Xenos are deeply divided. Are these enhanced warriors the Emperor's salvation, or are they a technological heresy, an impure creation that could harbor unknown weaknesses or loyalties? Trust is a currency in short supply. The rise of the cult of the bladed cog. The Genestealer cult's ability to infiltrate even the Adeptus Mechanicus proves that no institution is safe. The Ordo Xenos now fights a war where the enemy wears the face of a loyal tech priest, and the very machines of industry can turn against the Imperium. The return of the King in Yellow. Rumors persist of a being of immense power and mystery, an artist of atrocity whose works are acts of reality-altering heresy. Some Inquisitors hunt him, while others believe he is a necessary counter to chaos. His existence challenges the very definition of what it means to be an enemy of mankind. The Inquisition endures. It is a flawed, monstrous, and necessary shield. It is an organization that must constantly hunt its own, lest it become the monster it slays. Its agents walk a path of damnation, their souls the currency with which they buy humanity another day, another hour, another breath. In the end, the final truth of the Inquisition is this: they are the guardians of a doomed race, lighting candles in a hurricane, knowing the flame will be extinguished but refusing to stop. Theirs is the greatest and most terrible faith of all.